a lot of people trusted me in situations that I probably wouldn't have trusted myself in. They were trying to come up with a new gimmick for Brian Milonas. I always wanted to do a few things. I wanted to do a cage match. I wanted to do a ladder match. I wanted to do a hardcore match. We always had very similar stories, and at the time, we both had the same mindset. It was like a shotgun thing. I honestly enjoyed tagging with him. It was a good time. Rick was a professional. He took care of you. Yeah. His chops are legendary. That Rumble entrance was not my idea. I feel like it's her dream come true. She always wanted to be a manager. Something might happen by the end of this year. I botched Ring of Honor bad.
Ladies and gentlemen, hosted by Coach C, Chris Sanders, this is Best for Business.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. Another episode of Best for Business. I'm absolutely pumped for this one. New England legend, man, Julian Starr. Thank you for joining me for this one.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the invite, and I'm excited to dive into this with you.
I'm pumped for this one. So full transparency, a few weeks ago, I started thinking of ideas and content to do for the summer, and I was asking people all around New England for ideas, and you've came up like 3 or 4 times, so I'm pumped, man.
Thank you.
I tell you, you're a legend.
I don't feel like a legend, but that's very flattering, so I appreciate that.
So I was listening to Leo's show, and I remember bits and pieces of it. So when you first started, I remember you had the passion for pro wrestling right out of high school. I forgot, was it Steve Bradley you started with? I remember it eventually goes to Chaotic, but how did you get there?
Yeah, so originally what I did was I started with, as soon as I got out of high school, I went right onto the internet, tried to figure out where there was a wrestling school. And there was a wrestling school called CWA, and it was in Haverhill, Massachusetts. And it was run by Derek Mitchell, who had originally trained with like Knuckles Nelson for like 6 months and then opened up a school. I knew nothing about the independent wrestling scene. So I joined his school, trained with him for about a year. And then I was like, all right, I really want to make this something. And I was like, to be honest, I didn't think that what they had going on was going to amount to much. So I was like, I need to look elsewhere. And then I discovered Chaotic Online. But the Steve Bradley thing was, I was 14 years old. Yeah. I had gone to a WFA show in Lawrence, and they had flyers for fantasy camps. So I had done a fantasy camp for Steve Bradley. And that was kind of my first in-ring experience.
So what do? You do a tryout? Was it first? Is this a thing you do with Biff where he gets it first and then you get it the year after?
No. So when I did are you talking about when I did Chaotic?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I started Chaotic, So, well, as a kid, when I did the fantasy camp for Steve was like a 3-day thing. Okay. It was like day 1 was like introduction. Day 2 was like some more wrestling. And day 3, we actually would do like a live show in front of our family. Yeah. So that was that. But to get into Chaotic, basically I'm not the most well-off kid. I didn't come from money. So I always tried to find the most affordable way in. And so, yes, Chaotic would always do these fantasy camps. You would pay your way in. It would be a day thing. And then they would always pick a winner. And so when Jamie Jamakowski ran it, they'd pick a winner. And then that winner would get like a discounted price of the school. So my first time, Biff was there. I was there. And it's funny. I was telling my wife this not even a month ago. I was like, man, during that time, like, I remember doing that class and I was like, I'm definitely going to win this shit. Like I had a lot of confidence in my ability. So when they picked, I waited forever too. Like after that class, I was like waiting around. I'm like, someone's going to come talk to me. Right. Like that's how, and then like, I think I asked Jamie Jamakowski and he was like, yeah, we'll let you know. And then I found out later, like they'd picked Biff and I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, there's no chance. But then later on, I did a second fantasy camp and they had picked me for that second one.
Was anyone else at these camps that are still wrestling?
Honestly, I could not tell you. My memory is not the best. So as we go through this process, forgive me. My memory is garbage, but I can't remember anyone. Biff's the only one that kind of stood out.
So when I was doing research, first I went to Cage Match, and I'm curious. I don't know how long this lasted. Whose idea was Skull Basher?
So that was my idea.
Okay.
When I was in middle school, I had a friend. He's passed away now, but I had a friend, and we were wrestling fans, and we were like, when we become older, we're going to be wrestling. We're going to be tag team. We're going to be Skull 1 and Skull 2.
Yeah.
That's how creative we were. And as time went on, I was a big I'm still a video game nerd, but I would create the video game character, and his name was like Skullbasher, just pop into my head, and I was like, this is such a cool character. And so I always wanted to be that, and so that's where that all came from. It was just a childhood dream.
Yeah.
Wasn't the best.
So from there, you go from Skullbasher to as Agent Starr is the next thing?
That is correct.
Whose idea brings it? Is this Milonas' idea?
This is more, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's Jamie Jamakowski. It's like whoever was booking at the time.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, I believe they were trying to come up with a new gimmick for Brian Milonas, because Brian Milonas had been doing the same thing. He'd been the kingpin for a while. So they wanted to try and change it up, because if anyone doesn't know in wrestling, sometimes your act can get stale. So you need to be able to evolve. So they wanted to try something new with him. So they were like, hey, we'll do this presidential campaign. We'll have you run. And they were like, typically when you were a student in the Catholic school, the CTC at the time, now NWA, normally when you're a student and you progress to a point where you're like, that kid's almost ready for matches, they'll try to start to ease you into shows one way or another. So that's kind of how I ended up getting that spot.
Now I was trying to figure this out. Who is Agent Magic?
So Agent Magic, it's funny because I don't actually know his name, but I'm pretty sure we used to call him Tony Bennett, because we all used to laugh like that sounds like the singer.
Yeah.
So anyway, he was another student. He signed up at the same time I was. He was a big fan of The Rock. And so a lot of what he would do would model after The Rock. And like, he would always say that he naturally had charisma in his regular everyday life, but everything he would do inside the ring felt very forced. I loved him. I really did. He was the nicest guy in the world. He never had anything negative to say. He was always like in good spirits. And you know what? With time, he would have gotten better. I'm sad that he actually walked away from it, because he could have had some potential, but yeah, he was just another student at CTC.
So your career goes from originally Skullbasher to Agent Starr to when do you officially decide that Julian Starr is what you want to start to pursue?
So it was actually Biff Busick who gave me my name. So my shoot middle name is Starr.
Nice.
So my full name is Julian Starr Moreno.
Yeah.
So I was like trying to think of a name, and I'm like, I really don't know what to go with, and and he was like, what's your middle name? And I was like, Starr. And he was like, that's your wrestling name. Wow. He's like, there's no Julians in wrestling, and Starr's just, it's a given. It's a given. Yeah. So he was like, go with that. And I was like, okay. So that's what I went with. And that's actually how Agent Starr came about, because I was like, I want my name to be Julian Starr. I told him my middle name was Starr, and it just kind of came one over another.
When you look at Julian Starr's career, what would you say is like some of the inspiration for like the things you do in the ring, your entrance and all that stuff?
Oh, man. The people that I was inspired by the most, which is insane because when I mention them, they're going to be like, really? When it comes to character-based stuff all around, it was Brian Christopher.
I love it.
And Owen Hart. And some Shawn Michaels. And depending on what part of me, Austin, Stone Cold Steve Austin is my all-time fave.
Yeah.
When it came to wrestling stuff, it was Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart is who I studied the most. Wow. But I was all really over the top character stuff was either Brian Christopher or Owen Hart.
Yeah. So one of my favorite parts about your career, I'm such a mark for wrestling. For you, I'm curious, how does the opportunity for Julian Starr to go to NWA, how does this one happen? Because for Matt Logan, he had to get fired from Chaotic to go there.
So you're talking about NWA On Fire.
Yeah.
So NWA On Fire, from what I understand, was just an extension. At the time, the NWA itself didn't fully exist, so a lot of different places had extensions of NWA. So Tommy Savaldi and Mario Savaldi, I believe it was, Tommy Savaldi used to be a referee for WWF. If you look back at the old WWF, like the 80s stuff, you'll see him in there with Hogan and stuff. So him and I believe his brother ran a promotion. And I forgot exactly how I got up there, but Brian Fury was my sole trainer. I mean, I got trained by Milonas, Ivar, and Fury, but then Fury mainly took over the school. At the time, I believe Fury somehow got attached to it. And he was just, that's really how I got a lot of my bookings, is he was like, hey, come with me to shows. And so that's how we kind of got our foot in that door. Matt Taven got to wrestle for NWA On Fire as well.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how I got my foot in the door with a lot of things, was Fury kind of gave me the layup.
For you, when you wrestled for NWA, what would you say is something that made it stand out compared to wrestling for these other companies?
Honestly, it could have just been location.
Yeah.
Because their promotion itself wasn't anything spectacular. They didn't have intricate setups or anything, but they would always run in the sticks of Maine. And so like there was nothing going on. And there were times where I would wrestle, and the emotion that was behind the fans in some of our matches, it felt like what old school wrestlers would talk about. Like I almost felt like they thought it was real.
Yeah.
We worked a show. It was a fair show, but we worked a show, and Brian Fury and DC Dillinger got the fans so heated. Some dude jumped the barrier and got in the ring and like tried to fight them.
Wow.
It was just like, and we could do that all the time. We could get them. Like we had kids crying, and we had people like, it was insane. So it was probably just location and lack of entertainment in that aspect. Yeah. So it just felt like, it felt real.
When you were doing NWA on Fire, where was the main location for that one?
Oh God. I could probably Mexico, Maine.
Yeah.
It's almost like a 3.5 hour drive from here. I'd never even heard of it until I had went there, but that's where I remember mostly going.
Because I remember you saying there was different branches. Because at the time, I don't know if it was a thing, but like NWA New England, New Jersey, they had a bunch of them at the time.
Yes, yeah, and I had only known about NWA On Fire at the time.
Yeah,
I knew about the other ones, but I didn't know like how to get in touch with anyone or how to reach anyone.
So when we talk about NWA, you've had quite a career there. So the first thing I want to ask you is pretty early on in NWA. Do you remember anything at first challenging? At the time, he was Bobby Robinson. I think now he's Luke Robinson for the NWA On Fire Championship.
Not really. I was just, my biggest thing was like, I'm a very competitive person, regardless of what it is.
Yeah.
So a lot of time, like when I got into the locker room, my mind was like, okay, how do I become viewed as a main event wrestler? And that's all I cared about. I didn't care who was in it. What was my biggest challenge? I was like, who do I have to outwork? That was my whole brain. And I would watch people's matches and be like, okay, got to do better than that. Got to sell better than that. Got to whatever. Yeah. So I don't have anything specifically.
Yeah. So then right after that, I was like, I don't know, I think it was years after defeating was a Brian Fury for the NWA On Fire Championship.
Yes.
So obviously you mentioned the connection with Fury winning that. That must have felt cool.
It was awesome because Brian Fury was literally, so my older brother, I'm the middle of three, but I was always more of a leader than my older brother. I would say my older brother looks up to me, and those are his words actually. And so for me, like I was always felt the leader. So when Brian Fury took me under his wing and kind of led me, like he was like my older brother. He like taught me everything, literally everything. Because right out of high school, this is how you do this is how you talk to these people, whatever. And so the fact that like he helped me probably get like a speed course into growing my wrestling and understanding how matches work. Being able to win a title off him and being able to get put over from by him or whatever was it was honestly like I felt honored, and I was like it felt like one of those milestones, like one of those things where you're like, okay, I'm somewhat legit now.
Yeah.
And
what about wrestling Brian Fury in a barbed wire match? Now Julian Starr, you got an impressive resume, but barbed wire hardcore, you don't do much of that.
Yeah. So I was excited because as a kid, I grew up in the 90s. I didn't watch a lot of ECW, but when I did learn about ECW, I always wanted to do a few things. I wanted to do a cage match. I wanted to do a ladder match. I wanted to do a hardcore match. So when I said barbed wire match, I was pumped. I was wicked pumped.
Yeah.
But then when I got in the ring, I was like, all right. So they wanted our blow off because NWA they didn't do a lot of stuff like that. So they wanted our blow off to be like, let's make it a big deal.
Yeah.
And so they had the genius idea of putting a barbed wire match in a school. And it was interesting because you think that your adrenaline is going to mask the pain. And it wasn't until I took the first, when those barbs hit my back, man, I was like, oh, okay, this is gonna suck.
Yeah. Now I forgot for that one. Did you wear straight up gear, or what'd you wear for that one?
No, so that's again, these were all lessons by Brian. Brian's like, no, don't wear straight up gear. Like we want to dress like we're going into a street fight. And he had taught me a lesson. He's like, wear a white t-shirt.
Love it.
If we bleed, that's gonna show. And I was like, oh, that's a really good idea. So just the small little lessons I'm sure he learned from Steve at his time, but it's good knowledge that he passed down to me.
Yeah, so when we talk about NWA, before NWA, I don't know the first time you met him. Do you remember that first interaction with Matt Taven?
Yes, actually. So it actually goes well before NWA On Fire. So Matt Taven and I kind of had a very similar upbringing. I believe Matt Taven was a backyard wrestler, as was, and I say backyard wrestler in the sense that Derek Mitchell knew some stuff, but not everything and not enough. So like in the places that we wrestled were considered backyard at the time. So Matt Taven kind of had that same upbringing where he was wrestling in these like no-name places. He went to Top Rope later. I went to Chaotic later, and we both we met at a Todd Sopel show, which was like No Limit Pro Wrestling at the time.
Yeah.
And we kind of like, I think that was the first time we met. And I think that was one of the first times where I was like, whoa, this kid's like good. And then like, he felt the same way about me. And then we kind of like did this giant circle and then ended back up at WFA. And we were like, whoa, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And so like, we always had very similar stories. And at the time we both had the same mindset, try to be the best, try to outwork everyone, try to legitimize yourself. So I always liked Matt, and I always like was in good spirits with him, and I really enjoyed working with him and being around him at the time. So it was a good time.
You remember when you got that 3 count and won the NWA On Fire Tag Team Championships with Matt Taven?
Oh, I do. I do. It was that was another good time, and like I said, like listening to the crowd come up, like it's when you can get a crowd to react to things like that, it's validating to think that your work is doing something, because there's a lot of people that can get those types of pinfalls or those types of wins, and then you hear nothing. Yeah. So you're like, did I not earn it, or was I not enough, or is the fans not with me? When I could hear fans come up for that stuff, again, that was another like notch on the validation. That's like, okay, these guys are trusting that I can put championships on me. That had to be explained to me too, because I didn't understand the importance of having a championship placed on you.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that it just meant that they were confident in you. So once I started learning that, I was like, man, when people put titles on me, like that's awesome that they have confidence in me. Yeah. And I never looked at it that. And honestly, it takes like going away to like reflect and understand that at the time.
So seeing the lineage when we talk about championships, what did it mean to you when you won the first it's Chaotic, the New England title?
Same thing. And that was my home base. So Chaotic was always like for legit, like WWE to me for the independents. And so like when I started training there, everyone talked about it. It was the biggest deal. And I was like, this is nerve wracking. And they were like, we're going to put the championship on you. And I was like shocked, because I'm like, I've not been wrestling long enough to have this championship. And part of me felt like I don't deserve this. I didn't earn it. But at the same time, as I reflect, I'm like, you know what? That means that whoever was booking at the time had confidence in my abilities. And so at the time I was on a complete high. And like, I'll be honest, it built, as much as I tried to keep myself humble, internally there was ego building. That's like, all right, like you're way better than you think you are. You're way, like, people can see that. So just, I need to ride that and make the best of it.
Yeah, when I had Josh Daniels on a few months ago, he said the same thing. Like Chaotic, he thought going there was going to like basically help him try to get to WWE.
Yep. Yeah. And they had that connection.
Yeah.
At the time, Jamie Jamakowski had that connection, and it was almost kind of a feeder, because Jamie, if WWE ever came to town, Jamie Jamakowski could get in touch with like talent relations and be like, you need extras, I got people for you. Who do you want? Yeah. What do you want to look at? And he could be like, hey, I'm sending you to TV or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a good stepping stone. I would say it's probably equivalent to now what Elite Pro Wrestling Academy has, which is that WWID connection.
Yeah.
It's very similar, where they can whisper into the ears and probably lift you that one direction.
So when I look at your career, I see everything you accomplished in Chaotic Wrestling, NWA, but then at one point, how does Ring of Honor come for you?
Okay, so I botched Ring of Honor bad. So if I remember correctly, I kind of heard chirps about Ring of Honor, because I believe at the time Brendan Locke was trying to get in.
Yep.
Simultaneously, Matt Taven was trying to get in. I believe Bob Evans had a working relationship going. He got me introduced with Kevin Kelly. Kevin Kelly was like, I really like him. And so one thing led to another. Kevin Kelly kind of helped me. Bob Evans kind of helped me. And I kind of just like trailed with other people. And I just kept trying. I was like, what do I have to do? What do I have to do? And they're like, show up, offer to do this, that, and the other thing. Again, this was one of these things that was like, I was on my own.
Yeah.
I didn't actually know. And so I had never traveled that far, and they were having a show at the old ECW arena.
Yep.
In Philly, and I I did a camp. I did a camp, and then like they were like, "Oh, just go. Like you'll be." I think I was booked as an extra. Actually, I was booked as like having a dark match, and I was pumped. And I had never traveled that far, so I enlisted my mom and my ex-girlfriend at the time. I'm like, "You guys want to come with me?" And my mom was pissed,
Yeah.
because she was like, "I don't want to travel that far." So we get there. I don't understand traffic. I don't understand. Keep in mind, I'm like 18. I'm like 19 years old. I haven't been out in the world yet.
Yeah.
I don't understand traffic. I don't understand like timing or anything like that. I show up and ring crew is done. I don't get to help at all.
Yeah.
So I'm late and I'm like, fuck. Adam Pierce is booking at the time and I'm trying to introduce myself and I'm like, fuck, I don't know what to do, blah, blah, blah. Can I swear, by the way?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And so I think I saw Kevin Kelly. He's like, yeah, man, just like hang around and offer to help. And I show up, and then eventually I get to Adam Pierce, and I'm like, hey, man, I'm so sorry I showed up late, like, blah, 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 traffic, yada, yada. He's like, don't worry about it. We'll talk. And I got back, and he's like, hey, man, we already filled your spot. I'm sorry, but if you want to hang out and help out after, that's fine. So now my mom's just sitting in the car with my ex-girlfriend, and I'm like, I am not getting booked now. Yeah. And I boned it and I explained the whole thing. She's livid because now we just drove, 6-7 hours.
Yeah.
And I stayed for the whole show and I helped out with ring crew. And then I went home and it was a big lesson, a big lesson. Be on time, guys.
So when I look at Ring of Honor, this match blows my mind. So when does the 6-man tag dark match come in? Because not a lot of people can say they wrestled Bobby Dempsey and the Bravado brothers.
Yeah, it's crazy. So what happens is I kept my head down to the grindstone, kept going, and I just tried again. I was like, okay, I won't make this mistake a second time. Same thing. I did a camp. And at the time, I guess I performed pretty well at the camp. So then I had gone to a show. And I was with at the time like Matt Taven and Brandon Locke and same deal. And this time we're told like we're gonna work this dark match, and I'm like, all right, like this is it. Yeah. And they told us what we were doing, who we were working. I'll be honest, I don't even remember calling the match. Yeah. I feel like we may have called it out there, but that was one of those things too where I was like, I was always a proponent and very big on wanting to work. I need to work the crowd. Yeah. And I know that a lot of people did spot wrestling in Ring of Honor. So I feel like if I ever got to watch that match back, like I focus a lot on going to the crowd a lot and I'm trying to make them remember my face. Yeah. But it was just kind of a situational thing where I'm trying to get stuff through Bob, I'm trying to get stuff through Kevin Kelly, and I'm partnering up with, I'm asking Brandon, I'm asking Taven, like, what do I do? How do I go? And it just kind of spiraled into that. So
you go from originally not getting an opportunity to eventually getting the 6-man tag, and then 2 months later you got a singles match on the pre-show.
Yeah,
wrestling Nick Westgate. How does this come to be?
Same way. It's just now I'm really like I did pretty well. Same thing. I'm hammering Bob Evans, Kevin Kelly, all these guys, and I'm like, hey, what do I do? And they're like, just show up to the shows. Tell you're gonna help out. Just tell them you're gonna help out. And so that's what I was doing. Yeah. I was doing like I was doing the thing Bob always talks about. If you watch Bob Evans's Facebook a lot, he'll always say, do the drives, do this, do that. It does help. And that's honestly, I believe what got me onto Ring of Honor is I was offering to go. I'm like, I'm an open talent. I am available to wrestle. If you don't need me, that's fine. But I have people that can back me. And that was it. And I just went, I did it, but I didn't expect anything. And I think it's just one of those things where they're like, we need a dark match, and they put it on. Again, found out I rubbed someone the wrong way. I ended up having that match with Nick Westgate. Yeah. I was very happy with it because we did like one or two, we did like a false or two. And I'm thinking like, this is great. Cause again, I don't understand yet.
And you're still like 18, 19?
Right. I'm about, cause I started at Caddick when I'm 19. So I'm probably 19 or 20. Okay. And I'm thinking to myself, like, crowd's popping for us. We're doing all these things. This is great. Crowd's reacting. And so I'm like, this is going to be impressive. Then I come back and Taylor Hendricks was like, man, that was a great match. But I don't think some of the guys back here liked it. And I was like, what? Why? And they were like, I I'm pretty sure that Rhett Titus and Kenny King wanted to do a run in and beat the hell out of you guys. And I was like, why? Like, what had? She's like, I don't know. They just kept saying, let me go do a run in. Let me go do a run in. And I was like, and then I found out also I got heat because I did I didn't know at the time, by the way. I truly didn't know Roderick Strong did backbreakers. And I used to do a full Nelson backbreaker.
Yeah.
So I did one on the show, and everyone was like, you don't do backbreakers. Like, that's Bobby.
Yeah.
That's his deal.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh shit. And so like then that day I get home, and I think Bob Evans Facebook messaged me, or MySpace, I can't remember what was around, but he messaged me and just said, I think you should take a break from Ring of Honor for a while. And I went, okay. And like, that's all I got told. And then I was like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So, and I like didn't know what I did wrong. I didn't understand I was stepping on people's toes accidentally. So it was just like, I was just tripping over myself, and I had no idea what I didn't even know. I don't know. I was making bad moves. But getting a wrestler
for Ring of Honor at like 18, 19, 20 years old, not a lot of people can even say they did that.
It was one of those things where in the moment I was thinking to myself, like, I'm literally going, am I going to get signed? Like, if that's what, because I thought the same thing. I'm like, I've only been doing this for like 2 years.
Yeah.
And I'm already wrestling for Ring of Honor. And I'm like, am I going to get signed somewhere soon? Because this feels like it's happening quick.
Yeah.
I feel like it's happening faster for me than it has other people. So I did definitely think that. But then when I got told to take a break from Ring of Honor, wake up call. And I was like, all right, maybe not.
So from there, you go back to Chaotic?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So when we talk Chaotic Wrestling, now when I had the Logan brothers on, let's see if we can fill in this puzzle. Now, Brian Logan gets hurt. And do you remember the idea of who pitched you team with Matt Logan?
Yeah, it was like a shotgun thing.
Okay.
They were like, they just kind of, because I was kind of floating right now. They didn't necessarily know what to do with me.
Yeah.
And Brian Logan got hurt. So they're like, Julian's literally on their level, like in the sense of he wrestles just like them. Yeah. Like he's the athletic, smaller guy. So we can it'll be interchangeable essentially. Yeah. And so they were like, hey, we need this. And I was like, okay. And then they told us they were going to put us over. I'm like, oh, okay. So it was kind of a shock, but it was just kind of a shotgun thing due to the injury.
He didn't even know this. I did my research. You guys had 4 matches as a team, won the belts, 2 defenses, and then lost the belts. So that's not bad.
We were talking about this.
Yeah.
And he said that to me, and I went, what? I was like, I thought we might have maybe defended it once and then lost the second time. I didn't realize we had 4.
Yeah.
I thought we had maybe 1 or 2. So again, it's pretty awesome because it allowed me to eventually achieve another goal that not many people in Chaotic have achieved. So and it was cool to kind of tag with one of the Logans because I got to kind of see. Honestly, they taught me so much about tag wrestling. Like in that short stint, I learned so much through them.
Yeah, so when I post the interview with the Logan, starting all these interviews going forward, I'm gonna have clickers with like information, all that. So if I remember, you guys defended against Congo and was it Fala at the time?
Oh yeah.
There was one more defense, and then you won the belts, that defense, and then what was it? You and Chase defeat the Logans?
Yes, because eventually Brian Logan gets better, and then I kind of get kicked out. I'm a little sour about it. Chase is their friend, which is that connection. And so Chase and I form an alliance. And I believe that happened was that Cold Fury?
I want to say, Cold Fury. I don't remember which year, but yeah.
I think they just recently showed that Cold Fury. And I believe that is one of the most embarrassing moments of my life. That is when I went to go for a lion salt in that match, and I'd never broken a bone. I've never been injured.
I already know what you're going to say. Is this where you go? Yep.
So I go for I did a lion salt before that. And when I did the lion salt, I hit like I normally would, but my ankle popped.
Yeah.
And I had never felt anything. So I was convinced I broke it. Yeah. I was like, I literally said it immediately. I was pinning Congo and I broke my ankle. And he was like, what? And then I couldn't really stand on it. And so I was like, if you watch the match, they posted on I believe it's on their Twitch.
Yeah, it's on YouTube now. I believe the replay.
Go to YouTube.
Yeah.
So if you watch it, you'll notice there's a lot of moments where I'm hobbling around. And then there's the point that embarrasses me the most, one of the most embarrassing things in my life. And it's my fault, by the way. My fault.
Yeah.
Because I'm already hurt. And the dive that we called for me to do at that spot, I went into business for myself because I always let adrenaline pump me and get me to do stupid things.
Yeah.
And so at the time, I knew what I was supposed to do, but then I was like, I know what I can do, and I want to make this crowd go crazy. Again, in hindsight, thinking about it, not being a dumb 20-year-old, that's going into business for yourself, because that would have taken away from Brian Logan's dive.
Yeah.
And mine was supposed to, we were building it, and that dive would have outshined his. And I was a stupid, dumb. Brian Logan always referred to me as he tells me I was like a dumb blonde.
Wow.
And the more I think about the way I was as a young performer, absolutely was. I was just dumb. So anyway, I went to go do that dive, bad wheel, didn't catch the rope, slipped, just fell over and landed on my head. And then Brian Logan just kind of looks at me and he's like, and then had to finish the dive sequence. But yeah, probably the most embarrassing thing I had ever done.
So when I talk about companies that you wrestled for, we talk about NWA, we talk about Ring of Honor, we talk about Chaotic. How does Julian Starr go to ECWA?
Okay, so ECWA had a good connection with Chaotic Wrestling. Jamie Jamakowski and Jim Kettner had a kind of a working partnership. And at the time, I believe Chase Del Monte and the Logans were very big on going down there.
Yeah.
And so I believe it was Jamie Jamakowski and Chase and Logan. I think everyone kind of helped me bridge that gap. And they were like, Julian's fairly new. He's like a young up and comer. And ECWA was known for kind of bringing the athletic aspect of wrestling over there. And so I kind of got, hey, why don't we give you a shot? Why don't we give you a try? And we have this whole plan for you guys. And I was like, great. So, and I was, again, flattered, and I know that's where the Super 8 was. So again, this is back on the track of like, everything feels like it's happening really fast.
Yeah.
And it was just making me feel like more and more like, maybe I am good at this. Maybe this is what I was, I was literally put on earth to do.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I got the shot to wrestle for ECWA, not in the Super 8, unfortunately.
Yeah.
When they announced the Super 8, Brian and Matt Logan were like, I was for sure you were going to be picked for it. And he's like, I'm surprised you weren't. But he had this cool tag thing going on, which I assume you're going to allude to.
Is this the team with Ryan Galeone?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. He was awesome. Ryan Rush at the time. He was Ryan Rush at the time, and I was, Julian Starr.
Yeah.
And we had kind of like a Shawn Michaels Diesel type persona going on. And I honestly enjoyed tagging with him. It was a good time. He was a lot of fun. We got to wrestle later on and for Beyond. But he was an awesome dude. And my time with ECWA, I really enjoyed it. And I wanted to do more. But financially, it just didn't pan out.
Now, when you teamed with Ryan, what was the team name? WCWA or something like that?
Yes, because we were supposed to be the West Coast Wrestling Association. Yeah, we were supposed to be like a rival association. It was made up, of course, but we were supposed to be. It was like another angle where we were taking over and making ECW or ECWA better, less as popular as WCWA. So, it was a fun little time.
When you talk chaotic wrestling, I remember you said on Leo's show he was one of your first matches, but is there any stories wrestling Rick Fuller stand out?
So there was one time where I wrestled Rick Fuller, and I think I don't know if we were wrestling singles or something like that. I forgot what it was, because he asked me, he goes, what do you want to do? And I had already been smartened up. So I was like, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to do. And he goes, give me some stuff. And I was like, okay. So I just start spitballing. And then he goes, great. We're not going to do any of that. And I was like, okay. And he's like, we'll talk when we go out there. And I was like, all right. So that was really it. But Rick was a professional. He took care of you. Yeah. His chops are legendary. Everyone talks about him. Yeah. They're legit. They will knock the wind out of you. But he always took care of you. He's a very, very professional wrestler. And there was a time where I got to go over to his house. Wow. And he invited me, Brian Fury, and Max Bauer over because we were all doing a show together and we all traveled together. And that was a good time. We swam in his pool. He fed us. I don't know if you know, but Rick Fuller only drinks Tab.
Wow.
Yeah, he is an old school diet soda fan, and he would drink Tab. And this is the first time I'd ever heard of Tab. And that was a good time. That was a really fun day. And that was one of those things too, where sometimes when you're getting into wrestling, you kind of are afraid that you're never going to be one of the boys. And that kind of made me feel like I was one of the boys, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, so the company, like, I obviously it was my first introduction to wrestling, but how did for you? It's not in a long round anymore. How does XWA come for you? Because you had some real good matches for XWA.
So XWA, I believe I learned about them through Biff Busick. So
Okay,
Biff,
yeah.
yeah, so Biff was
Yeah.
wrestling over there, and I was like, hey, because I was always trying to work as many places as possible. So I had asked, Biff and I were really, really close when we trained together. We would
Yeah.
always spend nights like we'd be like 4 a.m. outside the school, just like venting.
Yeah.
And so I'd always go to Biff, like, hey, where are you working? Like, how do I get there? And same thing, he would just reach out to this guy. Mike Antonucci was pretty cool. Like, he wasn't like most promoters where he's like, come help out, do ring crew, do all these things. He was like, oh, you know, give me a match or something. And that's basically what he did. Was I just gave him some stuff, and he's like, come down with Brian, we'll see what we can do. And then it just kind of worked from there.
Yeah.
Again, I must have done something to impress him because he
Yeah.
was willing to use me consistently. So, and it's crazy because I, at the time, didn't see, as I talked to you about this, it's like kind of playing in my head. And I'm like, man, people did appreciate me way more than I give myself credit for, because I reflect on my own wrestling career and I'm like, I should have done more. I could have done more. And I feel like I probably could. I feel like I wasn't appreciated enough, but maybe I wasn't seeing the appreciation at the time, because when I just talking right now, I'm like, man, a lot of people trusted me in situations that I probably wouldn't have trusted myself in.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of funny that you bring that up, because now that I'm saying it, I'm like, man, he really did trust me and he didn't even have to.
Yeah. When we talk XWA, the first match that I found out about, the 6-person, what was it, Elimination at the time? Swerve, Hanson, Ricky Reyes, Matt Taven, and I forgot, Ricochet was the 6th one. Do you have anything that you remember from that one?
Yes, a few different things. So this was, at this point, I'm pretty deep into wrestling, but I still don't have self-confidence in the, because I would always use people as measuring sticks, and I never saw myself as good as it was always my trainer. Yeah. So I never saw myself as good as Brian Fury. And like, he was my measuring stick, and I always wanted to be better than him. And so when I was put into this match, I was like, I don't deserve this. I'm definitely not as good as Ricochet, or I didn't really know Swerve at the time.
Yeah, he was still new, yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't really know him at the time. Who else did you say was in this match?
Well, Handsome Johnny.
Yep, Ivar.
Ricky Reyes.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Yes. So like at the time, I was literally like, I don't deserve to be in this match. I'm not this good. But again, as I say that to you, I'm like, they clearly thought I was. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. But like, I didn't see it at the time. I was just so like, I don't belong here. The only thing I remembered was, this is going to sound minuscule to some people, but most workers will understand probably this, is there was a point where everyone's calling stuff and they're all asking me like, what do you want to do? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, nothing. Like I'm a heel. I don't want to do anything cool. I just want to, whatever. So everyone's calling stuff and I'm just kind of like, all right. And I'm nervous because I'm like, I've never done like a multi-man match like this where, I want to see how this flows.
Yeah.
So it was very new to me. And it was one of those things where we had a specific spot that was supposed to happen before Swerve. Swerve was supposed to get like cut off or whatever. And he climbs to the top rope and he looks at me while I'm down and he's like, what do I do? And I just called a spot to him on the fly and was like, do this. And he just like did it. And then we got a cover and I believe we got a false off it. And it was like one of those things where I was like, whoa, I think I'm starting to understand this a little bit.
Yeah.
And because it was like one of those things where like I was not confident going into the match. That small situation made me feel confident. And then I was like, all right, I think maybe I am understanding this stuff. But overall, it was a lot less harder than I thought it was going to be. And it was, again, one of those matches that once I got through, I was like, man, I can't believe I just did that.
Yeah. How old are you at the time when you're doing XWA?
Probably my like 21, 2 ish.
Wrestling those guys at 21, 22, bro. I say you're a legend, man.
Right. And like, at the time, like I know where they're at in their careers at the time. Actually might have been a little older only because at the time, I believe Ivar at that time was was already Warbeard Hanson.
Okay. This is 2014.
I was 25.
Oh, that's still not bad.
Right. So I was 25, but yeah, same thing. I still had no self-confidence. And like Ivar, again, was one of my trainers, another guy who I also put at him and Fury were like in that area. I always put my trainers well up here. So like, I always wanted to be them. So again, and then Taven's in there. I believe Taven's already doing like consistent Ring of Honor things.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I can't believe I'm being thrown into this pool with all of this great talent. So it was very flattering to be put in there. It was very scary, but at the end of the day, like it takes doing this podcast to reflect on it and realize like they clearly trusted me and my talent to be in a match like that because they could put anyone in there. There was so much good talent on the card. The fact they put me in there is it's very flattering.
Yeah,
it's,
one of the
awesome.
best around. Now you talked about earlier how originally like in ECW you wanted to do barbed wire, cage match, ladder match. Now, do you have anything that stands out wrestling Antonio Atama in a steel cage?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
When I got told I was going to be in a steel cage, I was pumped.
Is this
so
your first
happy.
one ever?
Yes.
Okay.
First one ever. Actually, okay. So I think, because I know I did another cage match later for like a Joseph Von Schmidt show, which was like, it wasn't a very big, but I don't remember if that was, I think that was later actually.
Okay.
Because that's when I started getting fatter and not working out as much. Yeah. But so yes, this was my first cage match. I didn't understand this. I knew what a cage match was, but there were things I didn't understand that I now understand. But I was so pumped and I was willing to do everything. And I had told myself prior to, I am 100% getting thrown off that cage.
Yeah.
I am committed. And I had told Antonucci, I was like, I'll bleed for you. I will bleed for you tonight. And he was like, go for it. So that was, I'm trying to give you good light here. That was another thing that I was very, very happy for. And it was funny because Brian Fury helped me put it together. He taught me a few things that night. He taught me how to bleed.
Yeah.
He taught me how to blade. He taught me, and then he was like, do a spot where you do this. And he called this small thing. And it was the only, aside from me getting thrown off the cage, it's like the only time in the match that the crowd comes up big. And that, again, those were the lessons Brian would teach me. And he didn't have to sit here and lecture me. It was like, he called a spot. I see it work. My brain goes, remember that forever.
Wow.
And so like, it was something as simple as let Atama get close to clawing out of the cage. And like never once. And this is like something when to rewind back when I had a ladder match with Matt Taven for the New England title.
Yeah.
I've heard people say like that ladder match is so good. When I watch it back, I pick it apart like crazy because very little do we actually go for the championship. And that's the story.
Yeah. And
I beat myself up now knowing this, but again, it takes causing mistakes to learn that. So I tell people this in all of wrestling, go mess up all your matches, make mistakes. That's how you're going to learn. But yeah, Brian teaching me that was a big deal. Learning how to blade was cool. Getting thrown off that cage was awesome. It's one of my favorite experiences in my life.
Yeah. So when we talk Brian Fury, I believe this is also XWA getting to wrestle the Young Bucks.
Yes. That was a good time. So that got shot on us. We never got told. So Brian, they want to build an angle with Brian and I. Brian and I were like attached at the hip. Because,
are you guys babies or heels or during this? What do you?
So at the time, which is so weird because it was always he was the heel and I was the baby.
Okay.
Here I'm the heel because I had already been going with Atama.
Yeah.
That we're blown off, and now he wants me and Fury and Fury is a babyface.
Okay.
So at this time, him and I are kind of feuding a little bit.
Yeah.
And we're going back and forth, and then he's like, oh, you guys are going to go wrestle this match. We're going to do this angle where you guys don't want to partner up and you guys are going to come to qualms with each other and whatever. So we're like, okay, whatever. We make the best of it. We wrestle like Cam and AG. Yep. We wrestle a few other teams and whatever. So he never tells us. He's like, oh, we're like after the match, whatever. So then he comes out, he cuts a promo, and that's when he literally like live in the ring was like, you guys are going to work the Young Bucks.
Wow.
And if you can watch that promo, like Brian and I's reaction is legit like, oh shit, like that's crazy.
Yeah. Because
Young Bucks were hot at the time and everyone wanted to wrestle them. And we were so happy about it. So happy about it. The downside to that was that match was a flop. And I say that because I'll tell this to everyone who wrestles, base your matches off crowd reactions. When you ask people, how was my match? What did you hear? Because you're not wrestling for yourself. That's what marks do. You're not wrestling to be like, look how great my moonsaults. You're wrestling because you're trying to draw the emotion out of fans. And so if you can make them happy, sad, boo, cry, boo, yell, cheer, whatever, that's a good match.
Yeah.
Even if your spots are sloppy or whatever, that's a good match. If you don't get any of that, your match wasn't good. And that's how I felt after our match. When we talked to the Bucks, Brian and I wanted us to not treat them like everyone else. We didn't want them to be spot monkeys in our match. We wanted to have a workers match.
Yeah.
And so that's what we tried to do, is have a workers match filled in with their spots. And the crowd sat on their hands for it because I think they were expecting Ring of Honor, the Ring of Honor style. And when we came back, we all looked at each other and were like, that's good. Well, all right. we all kind of knew.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the Bucks were like, honestly, guys, thank you. Because we're constantly like flying around and doing this stuff. And we're both kind of beat up.
Yeah.
So they thanked us a lot for not making them go through the paces or not making them do their act. But when I look back on it, I'm like, it's kind of a missed opportunity for Brian and I to cement ourselves into a memorable moment in the New England area. Because if we had gone out and just put on the type of match Brian and I know we could have, that match would probably be more talked about, but it's forgetful.
Yeah.
So,
but like we talk about your career, a lot of these things that you've done, people nowadays wish they could say they have done. They wish. And that's
the thing. And honestly, like I was just saying to you, Chris, it's one of those things where when you're living in the moment, there's two things. One, most wrestlers are going to be the most critical about themselves. If they really want to grow, they're probably going to beat themselves up about everything. And that's all I ever did. I was never comfortable being in the spot that I was never comfortable. I never felt good enough to be arrogant, although it may come across as arrogance. I was very confident, but I was never like, I still always had doubt in my head.
Yeah.
And I never cherished the moments I had because you didn't know what you had until it's gone.
Yeah. So I'm curious. So I was watching Leo's show earlier and I thought cage match was originally wrong. But when you win the Chaotic Wrestling Championship, it must feel good. But you said in the interview, like when you won, like you wanted the belt off ASAP pretty much?
Yes. So by this time, Brian and I had a falling out. And as I stated, he was kind of my big brother. And so we had a big falling out and it didn't go well. And so by that point, I didn't have any more friends in wrestling. Most of my friends like Biff and all them are gone, getting signed. Everyone's doing their thing. I'm a very closed party person anyway. I don't like having big crowds of friends. I'm a very like one or two comfortable people in my life. So when Brian left, I didn't have a road buddy anymore. I didn't have anyone I could go to for feedback because I didn't really want to talk to anyone. I was legitimately heartbroken. And then spiraling down to that made me lose love for the thing that this is all I ever wanted to do. Pro wrestling was it. Everyone always talked about backup plans, college, something. I had no backup plan.
Okay.
I was going to get a dead end job and work till I die if this didn't work out. Pro wrestling was going to be my career or nothing.
Yeah.
I fell out of love with pro wrestling. And it took multiple shows. Mikey Webb actually had said to me, you look so miserable. Like, why are you doing this if you're not happy? You don't have to. And I dwelled on that for months. And what happened was during that match, I went to get heat with the crowd and they booed, but I felt nothing. And in that moment, I was like, I don't think I want to do this anymore.
Wow.
I was like, I don't love this. I'm not in love with it. I don't even like watching it. And it became a burden to me.
Yeah.
And so, as soon as I won that championship, I felt nothing. There was no validation. There was none of the feelings I had in the past.
Yeah.
It was just, this is just going to make me have to do this longer is what my first thought was. And that's also why at the time, like my diet got bad because I stopped going to the gym. I was just shoving steroids into my body because I was like, I'm either going to get jacked
or
I'm going to die.
Yeah.
because I got so depressed. I just like, I was like, I just want to die. I don't want to be alive anymore. And so, yeah, I just fell out of love with it. And I went back and I went right to the booker and I said, hey, I'm done after this next show. I don't want to do this anymore. And he was like, okay, you sure? I was like, yep, don't want to do it. I'm so over it. I don't want to be around it anymore. And it was so bad that like I was supposed to even have a blow off match after Chaotic with XWA and Brian. And I even told Antonucci, like, I appreciate everything, but I'm done. I don't want anything to do with wrestling. I'm quitting. I'm done with it. And that was it.
So is that match with Chase like your last like match you have?
Yeah. That was my last singles match. And probably not the best match because at the time, like I said, I always wrestled at about 185 and I was up to like 230 at that time. And so I think I wore a singlet because I just felt so insecure about my body. And I was winded. I was slow. I wasn't training. I wasn't going to the gym. I was eating pizza every day. And it's a match. I'm like sluggish. The match isn't great. I think Chase and I had to cut spots because I was winded and he was winded. And it wasn't a great exit. And but that's like my last singles match.
Well, according to Cage Match and other things, you see it 2018, I believe it is. The chaotic countdown, the bell rings, the timer goes off. You come out, the place goes nuts. Everyone fed for you in that ring. You had a huge reaction. So I see the post on Facebook that you were training or you stopped by the Elite Pro Academy. So what's the status, Julian Starr?
So that Rumble entrance was not my idea and was not my idea. It was told to me it was happening.
Wow. And that day or prior?
Prior, like a week prior, like a couple of weeks prior. They're like, we're doing this at the end. I'm like, at first, like most times. So at the time, Brian Fury's booking.
Yeah.
Brian and I have already put everything from the past under the bridge. It's water under the bridge, forgiven, forgotten, gone, done, over with.
Yeah.
So we had a good talk about it. We got over it. It's whatever. But so when he was booking, he was like joking about it while we'd do like hangouts. And I'm like, okay. Like we'd be at the school and he would like joke. And then I saw it on the booking sheet that day and I'm like, well, I knew a week prior.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck. Like I was not ready for it. And I was like, I truly don't want to do it. Like I didn't want to do it. But at the same time, I understand working. So I was like, it'll also be good for the show. So I will do it. And the whole time I was doing commentary, I was getting butterflies, but not the ones that are like performance butterflies. Like, because when you're wrestling, you'll know you still love it because you get behind the curtain, you get butterflies before you go out because you're like, I just want to have a good match. I don't want to suck. My whole thing was, I don't want to get blown up.
Yeah.
That was my whole fear is don't get winded. And so that's all I was scared about really. And then at the time I was like, this is going to, because again, I've never had confidence in myself in the sense of wrestling. I immediately was like, they're not going to remember who I am. They're not going to know who I am. They're not going to care. And I was like, I didn't make as big of impact as like some people would say I did. And it's just, it's the truth. Like, I'm not just being modest. Like I've always said to myself, I don't believe I've made the impact that others like yourself say.
Yeah.
Like the way you guys, like when I hear that, it's genuinely mind blowing because for me, I don't see it.
Okay.
So, but when it happened and I got that reaction in that moment, I was like, I legit, like my brain went, this is insane.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I didn't think people would remember me. I didn't think that people would appreciate that. Felt like they were saying thank you. And so like, I was very appreciative of that. But man, when I got thrown out of that ring, it was I was so happy it was done.
Now, whose idea was it for you to go to the top rope?
Me.
Okay.
Me. I was like, I'm going to try it.
Nice.
I'm just going to do it. Because that's again, like a lot of things. So a lot of things that I did in wrestling in my day, I never practiced.
Okay.
I just would let adrenaline. So my first 450 was at a Lowell Spinner show and I just let adrenaline do it. I was like, fuck it. I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
I tried a shooting star press, didn't work out. The double jump moonsault, same thing. I just tried it one day on a show. I was like, I'm just going to try it. So it was the same thing. I was like, I'm just going to let adrenaline. I'm either going to mess this up or I'm not.
Yeah.
And so that's just kind of like what I did. But yeah, it was It was a fun experience, but man, was I glad it was over.
So going back to it, I see that post you were training recently, or I don't know what you're doing, but is there a possible return ever coming?
So I every now and again I dabble in wrestling because either I'm asked or I might feel an itch. But the itch isn't to be in the ring. The itch is just to like say run ropes or bump or even just train someone. But I never, ever, ever on any of the shows I'm on get the itch to perform.
Okay.
But with that said, I will say Brian Milonas always said to me, never say never. And something might happen by the end of this year.
Nice. I'm pumped.
Whatever it may be, something's going to happen by the end of this year. I've promised my wife. She never got to see me perform.
Wow.
My nieces and nephews found out I do this, and they've wanted to watch me perform. And so, if not for me, probably other people I love. So, like I said, there is a goal in mind, and I'm hoping to get there by the end of this year.
Nice.
So whatever it may be, you might see one more.
Nice. So last year I got to make my commentary debut for Chaotic Wrestling. I remember I was nervous because I was like, bro, like Julian Starr commentates here. Like, I don't want to mess up or anything like that. But for you, nowadays, you see, even back then for 2018, you're on the commentary table. So obviously you talk about you have that itch, but not really to perform, but to contribute in that aspect. So what made you want to do commentary?
So I was actually, I was asked.
Wow.
I was asked by Chase, and he was like, "Hey, at the time, it was like we need someone to fill in," and I was like, "Yeah, I'll fill in." And then I filled in for a while.
Yeah.
And it's like anything else. I am like, the best way I can describe it is if you have a cat, I'm like a cat. I want attention. I want attention. I don't want attention anymore.
Yeah.
And basically it was like, I missed kind of being around wrestling. And then I was like, commentary, absolutely. Side note, crazy to do commentary because when I was in wrestling, I was not the best speaker, wasn't a good promo guy.
Okay.
And they did not want to ever give me a mic because I stutter over my words. I never spoke elegantly, but a lot of that was because of my confidence. I have no confidence.
Well, one question real quick.
Yeah.
I know in the Logans that NWA was big. For you, when you did NWA, did they do anything with promos? Because I know for their NWA, when they did it, it was pretty big.
Yes. So they did do a few promos. You could probably find them online. They're not good.
Okay.
And it's funny because I had asked the Savoldis because there was a point where I was like, I'm not going to get good at this if I don't get practice.
Yeah.
And so I had asked them, I was like, can I please almost every time I'm here, get some form of promo in, whether it's a live promo or a backstage promo. I just need to get practice. You know who helped me out a lot with promos was Kevin Kelly.
Nice.
He helped me. He was like, every time you get a promo, send it to me. Send me that promo and I will break it down for you. And he helped me. He was very like ECW-esque about it. He's like trying to help me tap into my raw emotion. And when he helped me get that, I feel like towards the end of my career, which is funny, towards the end of my career, I started to understand more. Okay. And even now, like I understand that you don't have to play wrestler, speak from your heart and it will come out. It'll come out good. And so like towards the end, I was speaking with my anger for everything in wrestling, but it translated well. So to do commentary was kind of like baffling because I was like, oh, there used to be a point where no one wanted to hear me talk because I sounded like a buffoon. But now that I can sit behind the booth and kind of do commentating, it's kind of nice. And then I went away because I got sick of it. Yeah, because that's just how I am. And then recently, to allude to what you asked, I had asked Chase last year, I believe it was, or this year, last year, and I was like, hey man, I need to have a comeback match. And he was like, okay, let's do it. And I was like, I need to do it for my wife. I need to do it for my nieces and nephews. I need to do it. And so he's like, all right, what are you thinking? I'm like, I need to get in shape first because I am not in shape. And so like right now, that's kind of the thing is I'm just working to get in shape. But in the meantime, I was like, if you want to stick around and do commentary, I'm all for it. So that's kind of how I got here.
Now, when we talk about Julian Starr, I remember like I said, I'm a mark for you. When does the podcasting start for you? Was that like 2018 when you're doing commentary?
No, no, I don't. I believe it's after so it's just before I start going back to commentary.
Okay.
Yeah. So that you're talking about Truth, Justice, and
way.
So that was a podcast that was actually thought up from my my co-host Tarzan Taylor, known as Matt Spectro. For those who didn't know, Matt Spectro, Tarzan Taylor used to help book for Chaotic Wrestling. That during the period of when I was New England champion, and even when he was the one I talked about when I told him I wanted to drop the title. He was booking at the time when I got the heavyweight championship. Him and I see wrestling in very similar lights, and he was done with wrestling. I was done with wrestling. We're both, by the way, we both have the exact same birthday.
Nice.
And he's a very creative person, and he wanted a creative outlet. And I never realized actually until I worked with him that I am a creative person as well. I didn't know that. It took working with him to be like, that makes sense. Hence wrestling, podcast, yada, Twitch streaming. So he came up with the idea and was like, why don't we do a wrestling podcast with New England wrestlers? And I was like, let's add to that. Let's make it a podcast where people can just go off.
Yeah.
Like
unscripted for you. I loved it.
Yes. Because I'm very big on, if you haven't noticed, I'll talk about anything. I'm not afraid to sugarcoat stuff. I'm not afraid to say, like, life happened. Some of us may not want to experience it, but life happened. Let's talk about it. Let's get over it. Let's move past it. And so for wrestling, unfortunately, there's one of those things where you don't want to catch heat. So when Sheldon Goldberg came on, we had a great episode with him because he went off. Yeah. But I think a lot of people started to get this notion that I'm going to have to be raw and uncut and be entertaining in that sense, or it's not going to be good and they're not going to want me. So we got to a point where we were loving it, and then we were struggling to get guests. We'd ask everyone and no one wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And we're like, it's because people are afraid that we're going to bug them to talk about realities or truths they don't want to talk about. And so it just kind of started to fizzle out. And once it started to fizzle out, I started to get sick of it. And when I started to get sick of it, I was like, I don't want to do it anymore. Yeah. So that's how it came and went. But it was just a creative outlet for him and I.
When does I'm a huge fan of this, the Twitch streaming start?
So I'm, again, huge video game nerd, always have been.
What are like your games?
All right, so it's crazy. I started out with Nintendo, the original Nintendo. I'm still a platformer guy. I love things like Crash Bandicoot and Mario and all that stuff. But right now I am just like everyone else in the world. I play shooters. I'm Apex Legends, Call of Duty. And what's crazy is because of COVID's lockdown, the devotion to Apex Legends and Call of Duty and all that stuff, all of that time I've spent, because I was a console gamer my whole life. I'm a PC gamer now. Yeah. All that time spent console gaming or PC gaming on shooters, the dopamine that it gives me, I almost can't ever play console games now. Like everything's too slow or not. Yeah. Like it's not so, but my games right now, Call of Duty, Apex Legends, but if you give me a good game, like right now, I beat Spider-Man not long ago. Nice. I'm playing I don't know. It's that game that's made from the guys who did, I don't know. Anyway, I play single player games sometimes, but I'm more of a Call of Duty Apex guy.
Those are like JT's games. I thought you were going to say like Fortnite or something.
No, so Fortnite was one of my first battle royals, but once I got introduced to the other ones, I was like, I don't know, like the mechanics of Fortnite, but the Twitch streaming was one of those things where I work on a computer all day, so I have Twitch or YouTube up when watch streamers, and I'm like, it seems like it would be fun, and it seems like it would be another creative outlet, and I could engage, people. And I was like, maybe it'll get over because I'm a wrestler, because that's you have this. Maybe it'll translate. Didn't translate at all, but it was just to create another creative outlet, and again, that was something I really did enjoy. It just I streamed a lot when I lost my shoot job. The company went bankrupt, so I lost my shoot job. I had no job for a few months. I was looking the whole time, but in the meantime, I'm like, what else do I do with my free time? Yeah. So I started streaming. Once I got a new job, and obviously I had a girlfriend, now my wife. It all didn't fit into my schedule, so I had to drop it. There was no other reason to drop it other than just.
Is it ever going to come back?
I don't know, because I really, really, really like hanging out with my wife, a lot. And so any free time I have, I like to just be in a room with her. We can just shoot the shit, say nothing, watch TV together, play on our phone. I just like being in her presence. So it's hard for me to, because even when I do it, there's a sense of guilt that comes over me. She truly would not care.
Wow.
If I was like, I want to stream, she'd be like, go for it. She's a very flexible person. She's like, do whatever you want, have fun, whatever, just make yourself happy. Unfortunately for her, she's my happy spot. So I don't really want to do anything other than be around her. So it's one of those things where I struggle with wanting to do it, but at the same time, if I had to choose, I'd rather be with her than sit here and game.
Yeah. So when I talk about being a Mark viewer, I remember watching a Limitless show and not even connecting the dots. So Swipe Right's music hits first, and I see you in the crowd. And I remember I'm playing video games with Tricky the OG. I'm like, yo, Julian Starr is here. And out comes Susannah Louise, and you made a giant post seeing her live her dream. So what's that been like? Because I remember a while ago, this is dating myself. Like, she used to manage, what was it, Congo once. She did stuff in NCW with Angel Sinclair. So, like, seeing her do all this must feel cool.
I feel like it's her dream come true.
Nice.
She grew up watching wrestling. She grew up in the 90s, and she always saw things from ECW and people like Dawn Marie, Francine, Gorgeous George, and she always saw these extravagant women, people that she's kind of, she emulates. And she always wanted to be a manager. She was like, that's what I want to be. I want to be like that. And she joined a wrestling school and was like, I want to be a manager. And it just like didn't go anywhere. Nothing happened from it. So like, she just was like, okay, I guess I just wrestle now. And it was one of those things that it didn't come, quick to her, which was surprising because she was an athlete growing up, basketball, field hockey, you name it. And, it just like, she couldn't get it. So like, that was a struggle for her. And so like, she was like, all right, well now I don't feel, and then like promo wise, she couldn't really cut a good promo. So it almost felt like you can't wrestle, you can't cut a promo. You know what I mean? Right. And so because of that, it just she never felt encouraged. She always felt like she just wasn't good. And then, so for that reason, like just wrestling kind of started to become a very, you could say toxic or bitter environment because it was just always like negative.
Yeah, it's a hard spot to be in.
Right. And so fast forward through, her and Angel doing that small wrestling stint. Again, not something she wanted to do as far as wrestling, but she always wanted to be in wrestling.
Nice.
It's something she's always wanted to conquer. And it recently took Randy to reach out to her on his own, unprompted, and was like, I have this great idea for Swipe Right, and I think you'd fit perfect.
Yeah.
And I told her, if you want to do it, do it. And I feel like this is the happiest she's ever been regarding pro wrestling.
Nice.
Because this is what she always wanted to do. And if you're smart, and I'm going to say this to everyone watching, I don't care if you're a booker, I don't care, whoever you are. If you look at that woman, she is marketable.
Yeah.
She stands out amongst all other women in wrestling because of the way she looks.
Yeah.
She represents the old school look of what we grew up in the 80s, the 90s, and even the early 2000s. Like, she's so separated from everyone else's look in wrestling that if you put her on a card, you're like, who the hell is that?
Yeah.
I've been in public places with her. She legitimately turns heads. And that's what we call an airport test.
Yeah.
She's one of those people that could walk into something and you're like, she's something. I just don't know what, but I know she's someone. And like, if you used her right, you'd probably get value out of her.
Nice.
It's not a definite, and I know it sounds biased because I'm her husband, but like, I'm serious. Like, if Tarzan, Matt Spectro would always tell me, he's like, I think it's stupid no one uses her because she's just her look alone is valuable.
Yeah.
And so when Randy reached out to her, it's like, and then she always, again, she went out there with fear. I'm going to stink. I'm going to
Was she hesitant about taking the opportunity?
Yes. Okay. Yes. But not for different reasons. Lack of confidence due to past.
Right,
just, a lot of it too is like, we both have a very couch potato like personality. Sometimes we want to do, even if it's like plans for us, we're like, oh, let's go to the zoo. And then we're like, we have to go to the zoo today.
Yeah.
I'd rather just stay. So it's kind of that thing, but I think it's more confidence.
Right.
And her first time, like I'm very, very critical and I'm very, very blunt with her. And I couldn't have been more proud on that first show she did. She did so well. She was the perfect mix of you're there, and then I kind of forgot about you, but you're there again. It was the perfect manager behavior.
Yeah.
You didn't overtake the match. I know you exist, but you're not overshadowing the match at all. She was the perfect blend of manager. And then she hit it again when she did this recent show again with Randy.
Packed house for that one.
Right. Yeah. Wicked good. But probably the best house I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And she knocked it out of the park again. And I was like, dude, this is what she should have been doing from day one.
Yeah.
And she would have had a great experience and probably would have made something.
Yeah.
If someone knew how to put her in the right spot. I'm just very happy that she's getting to live this, because even if it's not for long, I want her to, when we get to that age where we're reflecting, I don't want her to say, what if?
Yeah.
I want her to be able to go like, I did everything.
Who thought of the Queen of Sleaze?
Her.
Nice.
Her, because her middle name was Louise.
Oh, okay.
And so her first name Susannah, middle name Louise, and she was like Queen, and it just kind of came to her. Nice. She said it to me, and I was like, "Ooh, that's really good."
Yeah.
I was like, because I know you look classy, but at the same time, you kind of want to be, sleazy. So I was like, "That's really good."
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm gonna help push that all day.
Nice. So Julian Starr, this is hands down one of my favorite interviews. I'm glad we got to make this happen. However, I've ended every interview the same. Now, the day you decide it's all done in wrestling, which I hope is never anytime soon, what do you want your legacy in pro wrestling to be?
Man, I've thought about that question so many times. I actually thought about it yesterday. I just want to know that I made any kind of difference at all, whether it was made, like, I've had people tell me like I did things in my career that they remembered when they were kids.
Wow.
Or like, for example, Mortar told me he watched me the spot where I messed up and felt, he's like, dude, I watched you when I was like 14.
Nice.
And he's like, I was in the crowd like during that time, and he's like, you were one of those people that I was like inspired by. And like, I just want to know that I made any kind of difference, whether it was a difference in someone's career, put them on a different path, made New England wrestling even slightly better. I just want to know that if I went away, I left a mark in the world, because then it makes my life feel meaningful.
Yeah. When we talk about leaving a mark, I'm only 20, so I know all about you. You're an absolute legend, bro. Thank you again for doing it.
I appreciate that. I appreciate it very much. People are reluctant to do podcasts and reluctant to talk. I try not to talk about myself, but I will if someone invites me to. So I very rarely get to do this. So I am as grateful as you are for me to come on. I am extremely grateful that you invited me to do this, because it can be very therapeutic.
I was watching some of your matches on YouTube. There's still more. So I think down the line, maybe we got to do a part 2 or something.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for it. So like I said, it jogged my memory, and I will run through it as best I can.
Thank you, man, for doing this. And thank you, everybody, for watching this episode. This was Best for Business.
Thank you for watching this episode of Best for Business. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, because this is Best for Business.